There have been 24 voting restrictions passed in 17 different states. And of course, Democrats are criticizing this because a lot of the people who will be affected by this are African Americans, young people, normally people who are going to vote for the Democratic candidate. However, people are doing all these studies to figure out how common voter fraud is, and what they found is that people are more than 3,600 times more likely to report a UFO sighting than they are to commit in-person voter fraud.
I just read a different story on this, on voter fraud, and you know how many cases of voter fraud where people actually show up to impersonate someone else and vote when they're not registered to vote? How many cases were cited by a Republican group that was trying to prove how prevalent it is over the last several years? 9 cases. We have a country of over 300 million people. 9 frickin' cases. Okay, that's ridiculous. They also filed a brief with the Supreme Court in a 2008 case, and they're like, watch this, okay? We have 400 instances of voter fraud. Now, most of those, by the way, were not people trying to vote with a fake ID, right? That was only 9, right? The rest were, you know, money, giving money for people to buy, like buying votes, et cetera, to vote, et cetera. So that's not what they're trying to address with the voter ID laws. That doesn't address that at all. All it does is for these people who theoretically show up as fake people. Just doesn't. Anyway, the 400 over 10 years, you know what that means? That's less than 1 case per state per year. Okay? And of course, we've also done the story about how you're more likely to be attacked by a shark in Florida than to have voter fraud happen. So voter fraud, the most contrived nonsense concern, issue in America. And the reason they're doing it, of course, is, as the head of the House in Pennsylvania admitted, is so that Romney can win Pennsylvania rather than Obama. And he said, we've done such a good job of passing these laws, we now think Romney has advantages in Pennsylvania. He screwed up. He flat out admitted it. We ran it on tape here on the Young Turks. So, by the way, AP just did a great story on this, explaining how thousands of people are going to be disenfranchised because this is now happening in so many states. Georgia, Indiana, it happened in 2008 in those states, and now Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, etc. And it goes on and on. They're going to try to steal the election right in front of our eyes. And what does the media do?
Nothing.
They call it even. Republicans say there's voter fraud. The Democrats say there isn't voter fraud. And the voter ID laws have been passed. People are concerned about fraud. La, 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 la. Do you know who's at fault there? I don't know. They didn't tell you. They didn't tell you the reality. They didn't tell you UFO sightings are more likely, because that's not what they do. They call everything even.
You know, when you think about it, say someone wanted to do voter fraud. How about the biggest waste of time? You know, I have a good idea, Jim. I'm gonna get up on Tuesday. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna act like my name is John Smith, because he's dead. And then I'm gonna get 1 more vote. This is gonna be genius. My guy's gonna win now because I'm gonna put 1 vote in on a guy that I'm not. Like, anybody who thinks they're gonna change an election and go in and do 1 vote because they need to go through all that trouble to break this huge law about changing for 1 vote, no one would even think of that. That's the most benign thing you'd ever think to do, to change an election. I know how to stop the Koch brothers. I'm gonna go and act like I'm one different guy.
Yeah. You want to know voter fraud? That's what Nieto did in Mexico, where he said, all right, I'm going to buy all of you gift cards at the local grocery store. And afterwards, you're all going to get to eat. That's voter fraud. Okay. In this case, if you go in as John Smith, it's a felony. That's the other reason you don't do it. Because as JR points out, it's the most useless tactic of all time, and it has incredibly harsh penalties. That's not new, by the way. That's not the voter ID laws we're talking about. That's old. That's the real punishment anyway. This is on top. Well, if you don't have an ID, haha, you don't get the vote. And specifically, picture ID. By the way, the small irony of this, so far we only had a Republican primary in this 2012 election season, right? So all the people who got shut out were Republicans. And then when it happened to them, they have quotes in the AP story where they're like, what the hell? What, wait a minute, I'm 90 years old. I've been voting Republican my whole life. Why did they do this to me? Yeah, that's they're doing it to anybody who doesn't have a picture ID. It's just that they get more black guys and more Latinos and more younger voters than they get your ass. So you're collateral damage.